Well, I thought I'd seen them all. I didn't figure anything stranger could come up during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, but here we go. Here's a letter from Kevin Mathewson, Honorable Judge Bruce Schroeder. And if you don't know, Kevin Mathewson is the commandant or commander of the Kenosha Guard. He is the one that published online a call to arms for people to come to Kenosha to protect property. He doesn't know Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't think he's ever met Kyle Rittenhouse. And there's no indication, zero indication, that Kyle went to Kenosha on account of anything that Kevin published. But at any rate, guess what? Thomas Binger has named him as a witness, and he is not happy about it. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dredd Show.
All right, so let's see here. This was received by the county clerk on October 14th. It was written on the 11th, so this dates to October 14th, and it says, Dear Honorable Judge Bruce Schroeder, on September 3rd, 2021, the state filed a witness list in the above captioned matter. Of course, that's referring to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. This list contained 174 names. One witness was listed twice. My name is on that list. On September 10th, 2021, the defense asked this court to order the list narrowed pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 971.231D and Irby versus the state of Wisconsin. And I'll let you guys read about that as obviously an appellate court decision from 1973. On September 17th, the state told this court that it has narrowed down this list substantially to about 27. The state told the court it provided this list to the defense. Later on September 17th, I asked Thomas Binger if I was on the new list or not. He failed to answer. No surprise there. On October 8th, 2021, the state filed an amended witness list, adding about 37 names. This list now contains 181 names. So they had 147. The judge ordered him to narrow it down, and it now contains 181. You know, this almost borders on contempt of court. And he ends, my name remains on this list. Binger and Krause violated Supreme Court Rule 20, 4.4, which states, respect for rights of third persons. In representing a client, a lawyer shall not use means that have no substantial purpose other than to embarrass, delay, or burden a third person, or use methods of obtaining evidence that violate the legal rights of such a person. Including myself, there are approximately 144 witnesses that do not know if they will be subpoenaed or not. I respectfully ask this court to order the state to publish the new witness list, or in the alternative, notify the witnesses on the list that will not be called. All right. So, Binger, again, we all know what this is about. If you've been following my videos and the comment section, you'll kind of have an idea about what this is about. Binger is trying to swamp the defense with so many names that the defense cannot fund adequate investigation of the backgrounds of all these witnesses. Furthermore, it makes it really difficult for the defense to understand what the offense, the prosecution, is trying to do, because it doesn't know which of those witnesses are going to be the primary ones involved in the court trial. So this is essentially adding about 40 players on your team in an NFL game with the idea that only 11 are actually going to be involved in the upcoming play, right? Of course, the defense doesn't know which ones. And so it has a hard time strategizing against the offense. That's what this is about. It's not a clever tactic. It's been done many, many times, and it should not be done ever. I thought this was supposed to be about justice. I thought this was supposed to be about getting to the truth of the matter. So why do you have to resort to this crap? Now, Binger did respond. All right, this is from Thomas Binger to Tammy Lemma, James Krause, Mark Richards, Corey Sharofasi, and Natalie Wisco. So this was not sent to actually Kevin Mathewson, but it's about that letter. Tammy, Mr. Mathewson recently filed an OLR complaint against me personally, which made this same allegation. Same allegation. So somebody else has complained about this, evidently. The OLR investigator wrote him back on September 30th, 2021, and stated, "You have been quoted in local and national news stories discussing your connection to the August 25th, 2020 shootings." As far as I know, everything that Kevin Mathewson has said is that he was not involved in the shootings at all. There is insufficient evidence to support an allegation that Attorney Binger named you as a potential witness for no other purpose than to embarrass or burden you. And again, he may be right. Binger is not trying to burden Mathewson. He's trying to burden the defense. He's trying to swamp them with a ton of witnesses that the defense doesn't have the money to investigate. On or about August 24th, 2020, Mr. Mathewson posted a message on Facebook under the name Kenosha Guard, which encouraged people to take up arms and come to Kenosha to protect private property. Okay, sure. At least two of the people with the defendant on the night of August 25th, 2020, Danton Mertz and Joanne Fiedler. If anybody knows who they are, let me know in the comments section. Do not publish their addresses or anything personal about them. I'm just kind of curious what their role was in the actual shootings. Told the FBI that they saw Mr. Mathewson's message and it prompted them to come down from West Bend to Kenosha that night. So what? In this news article, Mr. Mathewson is pictured carrying a gun in downtown Kenosha on August 25th, 2020. So what? He's not on trial here. Just because he's carrying a gun around Kenosha doesn't mean he's involved in the shootings involving Kyle Rittenhouse. And keep in mind, these two people, Danton Mertz and Joanne Fiedler, all he says is that they were with the defendant. I saw tons of video footage that night. I don't see those two people involved. Well, I don't know about Danton. I don't know who he is, but Joanne Fiedler, what girl was hanging out with Kyle Rittenhouse that night? I have no idea. But they're from West Bend. They're not from Antioch. They're not from Kenosha. How would they even know Kyle Rittenhouse? And so their motives for being there that night are in what way related to the shootings? Can somebody explain that to me? It is absolutely mystifying why Mr. Mathewson would conclude that his inclusion on a witness list would be embarrassing or burdensome. Well, I think I would be burdened if I was named as a witness in a trial. As he points out, there are over 180 names on our witness list. So we now know for a fact there are over 180 names on the witness list. When originally it was 147, and he was told to trim it. There is no reason why any of those individuals should be embarrassed by this fact. He also seems to suggest that merely being named on a witness list without actually receiving a subpoena is burdensome, which is quite difficult to understand. No, it's not. I would be really rattled if I was named as a witness in probably the trial of the century. If Mr. Mathewson can identify a specific hardship that he has suffered as a result of being on the witness list, I would be happy to see if we can accommodate him. But I fail to see how simply being a name on a list is a burden to anyone. I fail to see how simply being a name on a list is a burden. What if your name is on a list to fail school? That's kind of a burden. What if your name is on a list to be executed? That would be kind of a burden. So you can't simply say, well, it's just a person's name on a list. It depends on what the list is about. And here, this list are people who could be subpoenaed to go and testify in one of the nation's largest trials. So is it a burden or is it embarrassing? I could see an argument both ways. He's not saying that. He's saying, I have no idea why anybody would say such a thing. It's outside the realm of even understanding. Consistent with our legal and ethical obligations. Oh boy. Yeah, I'm sure he's a real hot player when it comes to ethical obligations. We have notified the defense of every potential witness in the case that we are aware of. Yeah, you named the entire Cheyenne Nation. Yeah, you told them about it. And the reason why you told them about it is not because you're ethical. It's because you want to intimidate the witness to make it appear that they are facing an insurmountable financial burden. It's like in Dr. Strangelove, when Dr. Strangelove says, what's the point if you keep it a secret? There would be no point in adding 180 names on here if you didn't tell the defense. The whole purpose of adding all these names was to tell the defense so that you could scramble their legal strategy. Consistent with this court's directive from the September 17th, 2021 hearing, the state has made every effort to narrow down our witness list for the defense. Oh yes, they have really done everything they could to narrow down the witness list. They had 43 cops on there. I would assume that once you get done doing everything you can to limit the number of people on the witness list, you would not have 43 cops on there. You might have 2. We continue to do so as we prepare for trial. However, this does not mean that we have waived the right to call any witness on our list. The state also reserves the right to call any witness, named or otherwise, in rebuttal, subject, of course, to the court's approval. I am not aware of any legal obligation to notify witnesses that they are not being called to testify. Nonetheless, but you see, here's the problem. He talks about ethical obligations. And what does he resort to? There's no law against it. No law says I can't do this. What about ethics? What about the search for truth and justice? Nonetheless, I always work hard to minimize the inconvenience to any witness in a jury trial. Yeah, by doing what? How are you working hard to minimize their inconvenience? Tell me what you've done. And I routinely notify witnesses as soon as I decide that they will not be called to testify. Well, how have you done that so far? You had originally 147, now you have 181. How many people could you have conceivably called that were on the witness list that you now have told they're not? I will continue to do the same here. ADA Thomas Binger. There you go, guys. It's getting dirty. I don't know how the judge doesn't just slap a contempt of court on this dude. But, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what the rules are. But it seems to me like the judge ordering you to trim the list down and you come back with more on it. I would be asking, do you respect my authority? But more to the point, this trial is to decide Kyle's guilt or innocence in an event. I fail to see how Mr. Mathewson has anything to add about Kyle's guilt. There's no evidence whatsoever he knows Kyle. There's no evidence that he's ever spoken to Kyle. There's no evidence to suggest that Kyle responded to his letter. And even if he did, you wouldn't need to call Kevin Mathewson to the stand. The letter itself would be sufficient. If you can prove that Kyle read that letter, and it's on Facebook, by the way, if you can prove that Kyle read that and showed up on account of it, then why would you need Kevin Mathewson on the stand? There's no doubt that he wrote the letter. I mean, he would be able to sign an affidavit to that effect. But who cares who wrote it? It wouldn't matter who wrote the letter as long as Kyle responded to it. So I have no idea what kind of questions you could even ask Kevin Mathewson on the stand. Did you write this letter? Yeah, I did. Do you know the defendant? No. Have you ever spoken to the defendant? No. Did the defendant show up on account of your letter? I have no idea. Why don't you ask him? Oh, he's not taking a stand? No, that's too bad. And if you look at the other names on the list, and I did a video on that just a couple of days ago where I named all the people on the list, it's mind-boggling how people are on that list that would have nothing to say about Kyle's guilt or innocence. Hannah Giddings, for example, didn't see the shooting, didn't see her boyfriend do anything, and yet she's going to be on the stand to testify to what? I mean, I would be hopping mad if I was the defense. I don't know if they're doing anything about this, but they need to. Like my video, subscribe to my channel, and tell me what you think.